Welcome to Candid Chats on Cancer. I'm Mary Robinson.
I'm Jamie Moore. Mary, who are we chatting with today?
We are chatting with Taylor Cochran. It's so nice to have you today.
Thank you. I'm
Nice
so excited
to have
be
you,
here.
Taylor.
Thanks.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your cancer?
Sure. So the cancer that I had is an ovarian cancer. It's called small cell ovarian cancer,
Okay.
hypercalcemic type.
Is that a common one, by the way?
No, it
Yeah.
is a very, very rare cancer. At the time I was diagnosed, they were aware of 250 people in the world who had ever been diagnosed with it.
So let's back this one up on me.
Sure.
For the guys on the. So, I've heard of ovarian cancer, but I always just thought there was just one type of ovarian cancer. There's not.
No, there are a ton of different types of ovarian cancer. Some that are more common, obviously. So those are likely what you've heard of. And then, you know, goes down the line. There's then subtypes, and then mine is technically classified as an ovarian cancer because it originates in the ovary. However, it doesn't act like an ovarian cancer at all. It acts much more like a sarcoma and other pediatric cancers. So they do actually, and it actually is a pediatric cancer. It's generally diagnosed. The median age is 24, and there are cases as young as, I think the youngest is 11 months now. So anyway, it's just an outlier, and I happened to get it.
Well, how did you have, what signs and symptoms? I mean, they've even caught people at 11 months of age with it.
So it's very, very aggressive. It grows very quickly. And so that's normally how they find it, because in younger children, you get the distended abdomen very, very quickly. For me, I did not actually have that many symptoms, and I was pretty lucky in the cancer world because I didn't go months and months before being diagnosed. My story, if we start it, kind of backs up to June of 2016. I had our daughter, Penelope. And a few days after I had her, I was back in the hospital because I had a uterine infection. And so they did very thorough testing, a complete internal and external ultrasound, all that. Everything looked good. It was just, you know, infections happen sometimes, and so that was all good. And then I'd say about 5 months later, so about 2 months before I was diagnosed, I started having a little bit of abdominal discomfort, some pain with intercourse, and then I was having really intense night sweats and some other random symptoms that I thought were just continued postpartum healing. I had also had an IUD placed, which is a birth control device, several months after Penelope was born. So I also thought, maybe the IUD shifted or something happened.
Or maybe it's hormones?
Yeah, or maybe it's hormones. Like, who knows?
You just
really
had a
what's
baby.
going on.
Yeah.
I just had a baby.
Yeah.
And everything was good, you know, so you don't expect anything to be weird. So I called my OB finally in January when the pain with intercourse was increasing. Became to the point where I was like, this is truly uncomfortable. Something is not normal here. And luckily I have an amazing OB who said, okay, let's get you right in. We're just gonna take a quick ultrasound. We'll see if the IUD has moved. And if it has, we'll fix you up and get you on your way. So I went in the next day for an ultrasound and got a call, and the ultrasound took forever. And I was just thinking, you just can't see something. I got a call an hour later with my doctor saying, you need to come back in this afternoon. We need to talk to you because we have to get you in for surgery. So I'm like, you know.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a shock.
Yeah, you go from nothing, I have a 7-month-old baby at home, to you have to come have surgery.
Plus you have another child too, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, we have a little boy too who's now 4.5, so he's about 3 at this time. Not quite. And so, or no, he had just turned 3. But anyway, so I called my husband and said, you know, this doesn't sound great. I want you to come to the appointment with me because we have to have surgery, so we got to get that planned out. So we went in, and I remember in the appointment just saying, you know, could this be cancer? Or, like, it just seems so far from what could be possible. And she said yes. Looking back now, I think they very much knew that it was cancer. They didn't know what type, but she said it could be, but let's not worry. You're young, you're healthy, you just had a baby. Let's get in there, get it out, and see. So I had my first surgery in January. It was cancerous. They knew immediately when they opened up that it was cancerous. And then we found out it took about 2 weeks to get the actual diagnosis, though, because they had to send it out to the Women's Center at Harvard to get it identified because it's so rare.
So what kind of surgery was it? Did they just take the ovarian
Yeah.
out, or the ovary out, or did they take?
Yeah, my first surgery was just an oophorectomy. So they just took the ovary that had the tumor attached. And that was about 12 centimeters. And that all went well. And they did all the biopsies and all the washings. Everything else came back clear. So they thought, okay, you have some type of ovarian cancer, but it's stage 1, we think, which is wonderful.
Yes.
And so we're thinking it's going to be good. We'll probably have to do a little chemo to be aggressive, no big deal. And then they couldn't identify, they couldn't figure out what it was. And it kept taking longer and longer. And the longer it took, the more worried we got because we knew, oh, it's not great.
Yeah.
So then we got the word that it was small cell. And I had asked my oncologist a couple days prior to when we got the official diagnosis, do you guys have an idea of what this might be? And he said, yes, we think it might be small cell, but I don't want you to Google it, and I don't want you to research it.
I was told that too, by the way. I don't know if you were with yours, but they said do not Google because you need to go to an actual cancer site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course
so
I
did
ignored
you?
that.
Oh, I didn't.
I wish I was as smart as you were and had not ignored it.
I wished I was too, because I did. I went
I
through the same
listened, guys.
I did not listen. I was not
It's
a
the
rule
teacher
follower.
in me. It's the teacher.
Well, because my little, my little research and analytical brain was like, all right, let's figure this out. What kind of diagnosis do I
Right.
have here? I got to get on it. I got to start advocating and figuring out what our plan is. I like plans. So I Googled and saw, 250 cases essentially, average survival time 11 months from diagnosis. Not even 10% make it 5 years, all sorts of things. And I was just,
Right.
and so then you lose your mind.
Your
That's-
mind's rolling.
Well, that's what I kind of found out too when I got on the web was, I was looking for hope, inspiration, a cure for my stage 4 cancer, but what I got on, I found, unfortunately, to me, and it doesn't take away anything from what the people are blogging on there because they need to get it off of their chest. But I just found doom and gloom at every page that I did. So finally, I had to turn the web off.
You really should at that point.
Yeah, and then realize that there was a process behind it, and that process was just getting healthy. And
And I do have to admit, I didn't have time to research because they made me go to the hospital right away and start chemo.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
while in the hospital, when I researched, I went to the sites that they told me to.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, go ahead with your story.
Yes.
So
I just had to throw that out.
I didn't do so great at listening. And you have to remember, I had this 2-week period knowing I
Of
had
waiting.
cancer,
Right.
but I had no idea what kind. So I'm trying, so once he said, we think we might know, then, I wanted to know something,
I don't
like what's this
blame
gonna
you.
look like.
Yes.
And I will say that some of the research did help because what it ended up leading to, because once we got the type, things moved fast, and they had to because it's so aggressive. I mean, I had gone from no cancer to stage 3 rare ovarian cancer in 7 months. It was insane. And so, I guess I should explain how I went from stage 1 to stage 3. So they thought I was stage 1 because they hadn't seen anything else. It was my
Yeah.
OB who had done the surgery, however, not an OB-GYN, or excuse me, gyn-onc. And so once I had my surgery to do my port, like a couple days later, and then we did the PET scan prior to treatment starting, and PET scan lit up like a Christmas tree. I was all on this side. I was just completely, they call it hot because red is bad.
Yeah.
So I had stage 3 small cell ovarian cancer, and so.
So it spread to what organs?
Just all my lymph nodes on my right
Just
side.
only
No
it
organs.
stayed in your lymph nodes?
Yep, lymph nodes, and it had not yet reached any organs, which was great. So I did end up having a second surgery after my first chemo treatments, kind of chemo, whatever, was completed to take out the other ovary,
Right.
and then all of those lymph nodes on this side that had been infected.
So you've had both your ovaries removed?
Yep.
Now, was the other one, was it looking like it was also going to be
No,
cancerous, or did you do this because it just made perfect sense?
Yeah, because we had 2 kids, and we had talked about a third, but at that point, I wanted to be alive for the 2 I had.
Right.
So there was no indication of cancer in the other one, but this one is so aggressive that they didn't want to risk it, and I didn't want to either, ultimately. I do still have my uterus, though, because, again, it's not like a traditional ovarian cancer. It doesn't from what they know, the limited data that we do have, it doesn't go into the uterus like
Good.
traditional ovarian cancer
Right.
will. If it shows up again, it's probably going to be in a different organ of mine. So, so we did do that, and then. So my treatment ended up being 6 rounds of 6 chemo drugs at a
Okay.
time. So I'd go into the hospital and I did a 3-day infusion each time, and I'd have 3 weeks in between. Knocked me on my rear.
Yeah, so you were in the hospital for the whole 3 days?
Yeah, yes, because I had, because they wanted to monitor how I did because the chemo was so intense. It was really a high dose chemo regimen.
Right.
So they wanted to monitor me and my blood levels and things. I was rehospitalized many times between chemos and stuff because it was so intense. And then the last of the 6 drugs was a full 24-hour infusion as well. So I had to be physically in the hospital to get that one. So yeah, that's what that first stage looked like. And then I had my second surgery, and then I went on to high-dose chemo and stem cell transplant.
Well, so you had stem cell transplant also.
I did, yes.
Okay,
We
you
were in the
pretty-
hospital
We
at
were.
the same time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, we were. That's how Mary and I ended up.
So
two
you
two
were
doors
at,
down.
Uh-huh.
We were
you
neighbors.
at the new Buffett Center?
I was, which was amazing. Thank goodness for that place and the healing garden at that place. I lived in that garden.
Thank God for people that are like Mr. Buffett,
Yeah.
who built.
Pamela Buffett, actually.
Yes.
Yes.
Pamela Buffett.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that place is,
Yeah.
They built it for all the right purposes. They didn't put their name on it, just to put their name on
yeah,
it.
it was
They
really.
built it for cancer and cancer survivors.
Yeah. And they actually had a committee that helped get it all together, and they sat in chairs to see if they were comfortable, and they checked out different venues to see what they wanted to do there.
You can
and
tell.
oh yeah, it's definitely
It's a
wonderful.
great place.
It's
So,
state
yeah.
of the art, that's without a doubt.
Yeah, and it needs to
But-
be when you're going through something
Oh,
like
I
transplant.
know.
I mean, it's just a whole
I was going to say,
nother
tell us
ballgame.
about that side of it.
The stem cells.
So why? Wait, first of all, why did you have to do the stem cell?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, because you had chemo, you had surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so again, my cancer is so rare and aggressive that there's little data on it. However, the data that is out there suggests that the best chance for long-term survival is when you do an intense consolidative treatment. So some people have done radiation, and that seems to also be a decent option. But the high-dose chemo with the stem cell transplant has been working well for those that have done it. So we elected to do it because I wanted nothing left on the table. If I could live through it, I was going to do it to try
Right.
to live for my kids. So so we
And
did it.
Was it
did-
your own stem cells or somebody else's?
Yes.
My own stem cells.
Oh,
which
that was
was
really good.
So hers
nice.
was different than mine.
Right.
I
Yes.
had a donor. and
Yeah,
so-
mine were my own. So I did the apheresis process where
So
they
it
collected
comes
them.
out of one arm, goes through a whole bunch of fancy stuff, goes in the other arm.
You feel like a science experiment, like, and you have to have your arms completely still the whole time, for like 6 hours. But
Yeah, I heard
did they
that's
show
what
you
it's
the
like.
stem cells coming out of the other side?
yes, and when they give them back to you, then too, after you get the chemo, it's really cool because you can see all the little like
Oh, the
teeny
little
tinies in the tubing. Yeah, it's very science fiction and really cool. Also, horrible to go through. it's stem
Well-
cell wiped me out like nothing. But
So how did you recover from all of this? I mean, you have, okay, what's probably now a 1.5-year-old.
yeah,
You've got a 4-year-old.
yes,
You've got a husband.
yeah,
You have a life.
yeah.
What did you do, one, to recover from surgery, chemo, stem cells, hospital visits?
So I did a lot. I was very like, what can I do to make me feel better, to treat my body well while I'm going through all of this, to heal? I never viewed cancer as a fight. I never liked that because for me it was like, this is my body and something has gone wrong. I want to care for it.
Yes.
I want to help it get back on the right track. So I started acupuncture almost immediately with treatment, which has been an enormous help for me. I still go regularly. It helped me through treatment with side effects, and now I still am working on side effects and then just overall wellness. I have a supplement routine that I've researched and tweaked and gone through. I've worked with obviously my oncologist, and then also a nutritionist and those types of things to come together, bring together a nutrition plan that works for my body.
Right.
I see a clinical herbalist regularly, and I have herbal tinctures that I take daily to help primarily with energy and fatigue. My fatigue is still, that's a beast that I fight every day.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
I know you know that, yeah.
Yes,
and
me
so, and you don't have time for it because you
Right.
have kids, you
You
have a
have
job,
kids.
you have a family, you have friends,
Activities.
you want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So that has been actually extremely helpful, those tinctures. And then I really try to focus on with my nutrition, adding in instead of getting rid of. I think it's very hard for me at least, and I think for a lot of people to restrict and say, I no longer
Right.
can have sugar and I no longer can have dairy and whatever else,
Right.
because when I was first diagnosed, I went nutso and I didn't eat anything that wasn't, green and leafy. And so now I just try to think about what I can add in. I still eat my fun stuff, but I eat more greens every day. I
Right.
eat more vegetables every day, so that's been a workable way for me to go about that.
So your family's eating healthier too because you're cooking and
Yes.
and-
Well, my husband does the cooking for the most part still.
That's really nice.
Bless him. Yes, he really got into cooking during treatment. Not that I was ever a good cook. Let's be clear about that.
Okay.
But yeah, he's really taken it on, and that's been awesome. I mean, because it's hard to get good nutrition in.
And is he working on top of this?
Yes, he is.
So
Well, that's good of him. That's
he's-
really nice.
so all the way through your cancer, okay, it's got to be, as a guy, it's got to be just horrific to hear that my wife, number one, my best friend and my wife has cancer, but then it's also got to be very scary for him that what if he loses you?
Yeah,
With
two
the
young
little kids,
I
yes.
mean, yeah, because like I said, Penelope was 7 months old when I was diagnosed, so we were breastfeeding. We had to wean in a week so I could start chemo. I mean, I was
Wean in a week?
I was still hand expressing breast milk my first chemo because I had not dried up yet. It was, and so for him to think, what if I lose my wife and the mother of my children, and they are young, they are not
Yeah.
old enough to care for themselves. It's, it's a whole.
And on top of that, he's working full time and taking care of the kids, seeing you at the hospital, and trying to juggle all of that, being the caregiver.
Not only that,
It's a
but
lot.
learning how to be a cook and do the dishes and do the laundry and
Yes, it's community. I mean, the one thing that was just so overwhelmingly positive for us through the entire experience was the community that we had. I mean, our family and friends
Yes.
came together like you couldn't believe. I mean, I still to this day, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it because they just, and then by them doing that, I got more comfortable saying, we need help. I need
Right.
help. I can't do this. And when you do that, you get through it. because
Exactly.
You have those people that you can lean on, and they help you, and they have helped us tremendously. And so
I think that was something
I agree with that.
we both had to learn was to allow people to help us.
yeah,
I'm
it's
a very
hard at
independent
first.
person.
And so am I.
you
And
know,
I'm sure you are too.
I was
Yeah.
so used to just, you get everything done, you're successful, you got, and then you have to learn how to ask for help. And understand
Yeah.
that people want to do it and people
Yes.
don't expect repayment. Don't be afraid to say, yeah, I really could use that dinner, or yeah, you can take my kiddo for an hour,
Yeah.
So,
one of the coolest things for me is my oldest son is a chef.
oh, cool.
And he's not all that social because he's got a lot of things on his plate and he's got work and everything like that. But every once in a while I'd find a meal left in my refrigerator that just had a note on it and it says, I made this for you.
Yeah.
That's
and
sweet.
that was the kind of things that would just literally make my day
Yes.
or the support systems are
Yeah.
fabulous. Now, you're talking about a community, but I've also heard you're very involved in the cancer community.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So
And what's available for us cancer people out there?
There's so much out there, and that's what I've been finding. The more that I get into it is that there are resources that are waiting for you, but unfortunately there's really no good one repository for you to look through. Oh, here's all the cancer resources for me. But I finished a program called A Time to Heal a number of months ago, which was excellent. That's for cancer survivors, and it takes you through the ups and downs and ins and outs of survivorship and what that looks like, because cancer does not end when treatment ends. Cancer continues. I mean, the side effects, the lifelong trauma. So there's specialized yoga for cancer patients, and there's actually one here in Omaha where you can go. It's Tuesday mornings, yep, and they do it's yoga for cancer. It's a special program that you can go and do that for free. I mean, there's just all sorts of programs. I know at Methodist, where I did my first treatment, where my gyn-onc is, there's you can do Tai Chi and all sorts of exercise classes, which I think movement is important. Even I wasn't running marathons, but I tried to at least stretch daily and things like that.
Movement and stress is the most important thing for our immune systems. And, you know, for me, they always were looking at a certain component of my white blood cells. But if I don't move, those white blood cells have a tendency just to stick and stay. And if anything, we can convince other people that are going through chemo is to keep that immune system. You gotta move, even if it's just sitting in your chair and just moving your legs up and down, like, or moving your hands or something.
It really is. And apps. You know, we have all this technology at our fingertips. I used apps all the time because I would be in the hospital so often, or just in my bed so often, that I use, like, there's an app called Insight Timer that I really like. That's the meditation app, guided meditation, so it can take you through visualizations about your body being healthy and your cells working and things like that. So I found that very helpful.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
There's a lot out there. You got to look for it.
You got to look for it.
Yep. Which is hard when you're sick. So if you are not feeling well enough, ask a friend or loved one to do it for you, because it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
And that takes me to, since you talk about being in bed a lot, how did you cope with parenting before, during, and after treatments? I mean, because you had little ones. Mine were a little bit older, so they could care for themselves more, you know.
It was a double-edged sword, I think, really, because on one hand, having them be so little and so oblivious to what was going on, it was like, okay, well,
this is mommy. They just knew that this was you.
Yeah, exactly. And he wants
now.
a sandwich right now, and he does not care that I just had chemo 3 days ago.
Because he doesn't understand it.
Yeah, so it keeps you present and there in a lot of ways, but then it's also extremely difficult because you're exhausted, and I couldn't go to daycare events or school events and things like that because my immune system was so down. And
I was right there with you on that.
Yeah, and so that part of it is very, very difficult. But again, it was that community that helped us get through that, because if I couldn't go, I know there was one instance where Reed had muffins with mom for Mother's Day while I was sick. And so my dad actually came up, got Reed from school. He brought his muffins home that they had made, because the teachers, everyone at school was so nice. So my dad brought him home to me, and we watched a movie and had our own muffins together. Because I couldn't go, but we still were able to spend that time together. And so things like that, I think, were, again, it's those people, it's your support system that really helps you out, helps you get through it. Because then I didn't have to feel like I'm not being a mom. I can't be the mom I want to be.
Exactly.
It looked different. So we found workarounds like that. And if I had to be just on the couch, then I was on the couch. And they were playing on the floor. And my husband was amazing about making sure I was as involved as I could be. And bringing him to the hospital and all that.
Yeah, I remember seeing her little boy, for sure, at the hospital.
And we just made things fun. Like when my hair started coming out, we had a haircut party. I gave Reed a haircut, and then he cut off my ponytail.
Oh, fun.
And like when I got my port, we called it a robot port. Mommy's part robot now. And so he thought that was the coolest.
Oh,
Actually, that's the way I feel too about my port is.
Yeah, you do. You kind of.
You're a little on the, like the Bionic Man type thing.
Yes, I mean, all of a sudden you have this weird part machine in you. So we did things like that to try to make it fun. And, and a lot of cancer survivors talk about attitude, and I think that is so, so important.
Right.
I mean,
I completely agree.
I had meltdowns. I certainly did.
And so did I, Jamie. I'm just saying it.
But overall,
we knew.
Positive. Yeah, positive. I was going to do the treatment. It was going to work. I was going to get better. I was going to heal my body. And that's all. I mean, it was tunnel vision for treatment. It was tunnel vision. That was my focus. It was I'm going to heal because I have people here I want to be here for. So
Right.
this is what we're gonna do.
There was a purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we did.
A will. I should have called it a will. There was a will for you. Yeah. And I think that's
Purpose
important
is
to
purpose and will is
kind
to
of
me
the same
means the
thing.
same thing.
Does it?
just your purpose was you wanted to stay well and healthy so you can watch your children grow up
Yes.
and have grandchildren and have great grandchildren and be involved in their whole life.
Yeah, I just remember when I was first diagnosed, one of the first things I said was, this is not my kid's story.
Right.
Like, it wasn't even, obviously I did not want to have cancer, but this was not going to be my kid's
No.
story. They were not going to lose their mom.
For your kids, it's going to be
Exactly.
one of those things when they turn
That gives me
18 or
goosebumps.
20 and you go, remember when mom was sick? And they'll go, no.
Like, what?
Like, no, yeah, mom was like on her living deathbed, and there's a reason why I want you to go get tested at the hospital, have some blood work done, and they'll just look at you and go, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Say,
But you'll have pictures and whatnot
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
say, we made it through, and look at what we did at home with our cup or our muffins.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
so
Yes.
out of everything that you've done, what would be some beautiful parting wisdom as a mother, as a survivor, that you can give us?
Lean into your community, whoever that is. And it doesn't look the same for everyone. So
Right.
find what it is and lean into them. Don't be afraid to ask. And then, just attitude. Try to stay focused on what your end goal is, because you are going to feel like death a lot of the time.
Right.
But you got to stay focused if you
And
know
she's talking
that.
about the stem cell transplant.
Yes.
Because that was really hard.
Yes.
yes.
Not that the chemo isn't for other,
Yeah, but that transplant's
But
on another
evidently, that transplant did wonderful things for you, though.
So far, so good.
how, just really quickly, how far out are you now?
So I will be a year in remission in December.
Good for you. that is, I'll be a year in November coming up, and that is just a beautiful mark for all of us.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for being on the show.
Yeah, and sharing your journey with us, and we, anytime, you're welcome back.
Thank
Yes.
you. This has been so fun. Thank you, guys.
And we hope you join us again next time on Candid Chats for Cancer.
We'll see you in next episode. You guys have a good day.